Welcome back to fall day 14 and 15 of the Stardew Valley Min-Max and 100% Perfection Guide. Both of these days are going to be Skull Cavern dives, and on today, day 14, we're going to have a super luck day and make it to the deepest floor we have yet. And then on day 15, we'll have another dive, but take care of something very important beforehand, which is planting the winter foraging seeds in our greenhouse. Let's go ahead and get started with day 14, and it looks like Evelyn has greeted us at our doorstep. This cutscene triggers shortly after unlocking the greenhouse, and Evelyn gives us a garden pot, and we also unlock the recipe to craft more. These won't be crazy useful at the moment. They are nice if we want to grow cactus fruit, since they can only be grown indoors, but of course we can forage them from the desert as well. The garden pots are very useful in some crazy setups once the deluxe retaining soil is unlocked, which lets crops never need to be watered. So hypothetically, we could fill our house and sheds with these and grow much more starfruit than we normally would be able to fit on our farm. But of course, this is not possible until after Ginger Island, and the cost to set everything up would also be very pricey, and we'll likely already have enough money for perfection before we could set this all up, but it is still a fun concept. Anyways, as we're organizing all of our stuff and preparing for the Skull Cavern dive today, it looks like I am contemplating whether or not to bring 1 or 2 magic rock candies. It is a super luck day, so I probably should have bring both since we are off to a pretty early start. We've only spent 10 in-game minutes, but I guess I decided to save 1 just in case. Looking back, I still think it's better to use 2 magic rock candies in one day. You get a lot more out of it that way. But anyways, we're here at the desert now. Today is Sunday, so it's Staircase Sunday. We're gonna pick up those in exchange for our jades and then get started in the mines. So we did already have a pretty good Skull Cavern dive earlier this fall, using 2 magic rock candies in this one. However, this one I do make it the deepest I have yet. I am going to be skipping around a little bit more than I did on that last run, but also I'm going to include much more footage than I would than just a normal average Skull Cavern dive, which I'll normally skip over the most of it. Anyways, for the most part, I've been using bombs to get staircases down, but I will, on these floors with not a lot of rocks, of course, use crafted staircases, and then when there are lots of rocks like that last floor, of course I'll bomb it, and of course even better is when there's already a staircase down, but best of all is when we get holes. Of course that one was only 3 levels, so not the best, but we do get quite a few holes this run, which is why I think we're able to make it as deep as we do. The holes are definitely the largest factor in getting down fast in Skull Cavern, unless of course we spam staircases, which I am using a good amount of staircases, but not a crazy amount. I still would consider this a strategical dive rather than just spamming 100 staircases to get past for 100 and then just start bombing Iridium. And of course there's nothing wrong with spamming 100 staircases to get down. It's just a little more expensive than we would want right now, and it's a little bit more worth it for us to bomb when it makes sense to bomb, and of course when there's already staircases, utilize those. But who knows, maybe in future dives we'll end up using a lot more staircases when we can afford more, but right now I don't want to use too many. And of course the biggest upside to bombs is they uncover holes, and the holes get us down fast. We're already to floor 39. We're starting to get a decent amount of iridium spawning, and it's only 10 a.m. I still will be going a little out of the way to bust open crates because a second lucky ring would be nice. They do stack. Even if I got one right now, I probably wouldn't use it since we are doing quite a bit of ring switching already as it is. But once we unlock Ginger Island and can start combining rings, we'll definitely have 2 combined rings that have the +1 luck bonus. Another thing we want to keep in mind is to keep blowing up gold veins and copper veins and iron veins as well although the gold nodes are most important because the main bomb we're using is mega bombs, of course. Of course, we want to avoid crafting the other two bombs as much as we can to save our coal, but we do want to make sure we're bombing lots of gold, so I'll not go out of my way for gold, but if there is a gold node, of course I'll bomb it. And with gold, we also need solar essence, so we need to make sure we blow up plenty of mummies, and the void essence we don't really have to worry about since we'll naturally slay plenty of serpents. And speaking of serpents, here's a good example of when blocking is useful. If you have a serpent that's coming real close to you, and then you do happen to pause, if you right click, block with your sword, you'll most likely not take any damage from the serpent since they do come at you pretty fast. And of course you can block other enemies, but it's a lot harder because they come at you much slower than the serpents do. And at that point it makes more sense to just swing your sword at the enemies than to block. We're still making pretty good progress. We're on floor 58 now, a star-shaped floor, which are usually my favorite floor. Usually you can just blow up a bomb and get a staircase, which we did there, although that one was rather barren. And then of course the spiral floor we skip, same with the dinosaur floor, although eventually I might want to start slaying some dinosaurs because we do want to complete all of the monster slayer eradication goals eventually. But we're really not in any hurry for the pepper rexes since the reward is just a vanity item. We are starting to get a bit more iridium spawns, which is nice, and of course, as usual, I'm still swapping between rings to get maximum use out of them. I do know pausing every minute can start to get a little annoying and tedious, but it is probably the most powerful tool in a min-max run, allowing time to think without wasting in-game time. And of course, it lets us ring swap, which basically turns what would normally be 2 ring bonuses into 4 ring bonuses. Of course, we can't actually have 4 bonuses active at once, but that is okay because we rarely need all bonuses active at once. We only need the napalm ring and burglar's ring when we slay enemies, and we only need the iridium band when picking up items and dealing damage to enemies. The luck ring we want to keep on much more often, especially when mining and blowing up nodes to get an increased chance for ladders and holes and more ore. And when going to the next floor, increased luck also will give us higher chances at treasure floors and more ore nodes. So right now, I think the best setup is to have the luck ring and iridium band on by default and switch to the burglar's ring right before slaying an enemy. And same thing goes for the napalm ring, only if there are nodes nearby to blow up. If there aren't any rocks nearby to blow up when slaying an enemy, it makes sense to keep the luck ring on. I definitely can see how so much pausing can become tedious, but after a while, it does become second nature, and actually so much so, where if I play multiplayer Stardew, I'll often die in Skull Cavern because I thought the game would pause when opening my inventory. Anyways, that's a bit of an explanation of my thoughts on pausing and ring swapping, and I definitely think they're essential in min-max runs. We've made it down to floor 94 now, and we're definitely starting to notice quite a bit of more iridium ore. I always find this type of floor, this layout right here, to often have the most iridium nodes, and of course the mummies are nice. Slay the mummies and then bomb the iridium and mummies at the same time to get just a crazy amount of loot. Even the longer floors, like this one right here, which I would normally skip with a staircase, have quite a few iridium nodes. It could be arguable to still skip them, but we did end up getting a staircase from it, and we're down past floor 100 now, and pretty soon we should think about eating the magic rock candy. I think I will around 6 o'clock because the magic rock candy lasts a little over 8 minutes in real life time, which equates to roughly 8 hours in game. The timing in Skull Cavern is actually different than anywhere else in the game. In Skull Cavern, 1 hour in game will last a real life 54 seconds, while everywhere else in the game only lasts 43 seconds. So we do end up eating the magic rock candy right now at 6 p.m. and I do think this is actually a little bit later than we should have, since the buff will last for 8 minutes and 24 seconds, which is precisely 9 1/3 hours in game. So the very latest magic rock candy should be eaten is 4:40 p.m. to get the full duration until the end of the day. At least I'm pretty sure this is accurate. My calculations are based off of what the wiki says the in-game hours equate to in real life seconds, which should be accurate. Since in-game hours are longer in Skull Cavern than usual, this does allow for better dives than if the time was not extended, so it's a nice feature that you may or may have not known about. On a related note, I have no idea how this transfers to a multiplayer game. If someone is in Skull Cavern, does time slow down for everyone? Or does everyone need to be in Skull Cavern? Or maybe it's dependent on the host of the game. I'm not too sure. If anyone happens to know, please let me know down in the comments. But anyways, let's get back to this dive. And right here is one of my favorite things to do in Skull Cavern: slay plenty of mummies and just blow them up all at once. It's probably the most satisfying in the game for me, at least, so it's always nice to include that, and then we'll continue downwards. And after plenty of more bombs and staircases, we make it down to floor 132 at 8:30 p.m., so we still got quite a bit of time left. And right here, I'm switching to the napalm ring in hopes of blowing up those 3 iridium ore nodes there with this iridium bat. So we'll see if we can get it, and perfect. We get a prismatic shard out of it too, so it's always nice when we can line those up with the iridium ore nodes, especially because it's always nice to save on bombs, and the iridium nodes do take 4 hits with our iridium pickaxe, which does take quite a long time if we were to manually mine them, just like I did right there. We're gonna keep pushing down. Of course, we're gonna blow up iridium if we see it. I could say I am spending a little bit too much time on this floor right now, distracted by that bat and more nodes and iridium, when I did already get a staircase right there, but that's alright. Spiral floor we're gonna skip. This floor right here, I do get a ladder right away, and we get a purple slime egg from the treasure floor. And I'm gonna learn from my past mistakes. I noticed that the slime egg does sell for quite a bit amount of G, so rather than selling that in my trash can right there, I'm gonna probably save that and sell it. And we'll continue down. It is a little bit nice to have the upgraded trash can. We do get a little bit of money back that we otherwise wouldn't. And of course, it's best used with Skull Cavern, where we're gonna get lots of stuff that we cannot hold since we have all these tools that we have with us, these extra rings. So our inventory does get quite full. Of course, we're gonna keep the essentials, but things that we only get like one of or that don't stack a lot, we'll go ahead and throw in the trash can. And again, with this type of floor, I always feel like this type of floor has the most iridium ore nodes. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it certainly seems like it from my experiences at least. And actually, right now at least, those gold nodes seem to be a bit more desirable than all of the iridium ore. Of course, iridium is still our main focus and it's the money maker, but we do need to keep getting plenty of gold to keep our supply of bombs up. And this leads me to, in my opinion, the most difficult thing to cover in a min-max run, and that is resource allocation. It's hard to know what is the best method of obtaining items that is minimizing the time and cost. For bombs, we could buy them from the dwarf, or even buy the ores from Clint and craft them with them, but in this run, I stick to crafting them from ores we get in Skull Cavern dives. I personally chose this strategy since I want to use the money for other things, but who knows, maybe if I invested some money in bombs, I would have more than usual so I could use more and then gather more resources and make more money than I would have otherwise. It's definitely hard to calculate since it's all dependent on how useful they end up being in-game and how much resources and money is gained back from them. The same idea can be said for crafted staircases. We could potentially buy stone from Robin and craft a bunch to get straight past floor 100 in Skull Cavern and get tons of iridium to pay back the initial cost. During the first year, stone costs 20G, so 100 staircases would cost 198,000 G. If we divide this by our sell price for iridium bars, 1500 G, we get 132 iridium bars needed to pay back that stone cost, and this equates to 660 iridium ore and 132 coal needed. We would for sure get that much iridium ore from a Skull Cavern dive back, but we would likely need to purchase coal from Clint at 150G each, so it is very hard to know for sure what strategy is best. It's even more difficult after the first year since Robin and Clint raised their prices. For this run at least, we won't be purchasing too much materials from them, but it is good to keep in our minds, and especially if we want to stock up on materials before the price increase at year 2. Anyways, back to this dive. We've made it all the way to floor 185, and it's 1:40 a.m. already, and it seems like this is going to be the last floor, almost 150 now. But watch how just 10 in-game minutes can get us down like almost 10 floors with just a few staircases. And right here we have one last iridium ore node, and that copper is actually lucky, and we get a hole, and that hole is another 8 levels, getting us to floor 196. Probably a waste of a staircase right there, but we're able to get to our deepest floor yet, floor 197. And that brings us to fall day 15. Let's take a look at our haul from yesterday's dive. We got quite a bit of ore, of course, a lot of that was crafted into bombs, but we ended up with 512 iridium ore, 7 prismatic shards, and some other various loot. We're going to have another Skull Cavern dive today, although not as lucky as yesterday's, because we just have a neutral luck day and we won't be eating any magic rock candy today, so we'll also end up skipping over most of today's dive. It looks like we're greeted with another cutscene right outside our doorstep with Jody this time, who just invites us over to dinner. It's just a quest where we have to bring her a largemouth bass, that's all. And then we'll get to our organizing, and we have some starfruit wine ready. This last wine right here, remember, is just a grape wine. We'll use that one for the community center, and then we'll start kegging some of our coffee beans. I'm gonna grab the winter seeds now. We're gonna go over to the greenhouse and make one of the most important moves of this run, destroying those rhubarbs and planting the winter seeds. So I'm really hoping for a crocus and snow yam out of those so we can complete the community center before winter. We're gonna continue our farm chores by petting some animals, grabbing any things we want to bring with us, and of course we got some fall forageables ready to be picked. This will increase our foraging XP slightly, so I will replant them with more fall foraging seeds, because any extra foraging XP we can get is nice. I would really like to get to level 10 foraging as soon as possible, so by any means we're gonna keep trying to progress towards that. And after replanting those, we're pretty much done with everything here on the farm. I'm gonna start kegging some more starfruit now in our kegs. That's 16 starfruit turned into wine. Eventually we're gonna get plenty of more kegs, start placing them around the bus stop so we can keg almost 100 starfruit at once. and eventually we'll get even more than 100 kegs at once, so that'll be coming in the future. For now, we're gonna head out from our farm. We're gonna head over to Clint's, pick up our iridium watering can, and we're actually gonna get our last upgrade possible from Clint. We're gonna sell some iridium bars first, save 5 of them, and get the most useful upgrade in the game, the iridium trash can. And of course, that's mostly a joke, but maybe it's not as useless as it sounds. It costs 12,500 G, and with it we'll get 60% of an item's value in G back when trashed, so eventually with all the Skull Cavern dives and trashing extra items, we may be making that money back. After gifting Sandy a flower and stocking up on some warp totems from the desert trader, we'll head on to Skull Cavern. We get a nice and lucky start here with a star floor with lots of mummies, so before we end this video, let's go ahead and slay all these mummies real quick, blow them up, and then we'll skip over to the end of the day and the end of this video. Hopefully some of the topics I talked about today were useful or interesting, including the pausing and ring swapping, the in-game time versus real-life time, and of course, resource allocation. If you have any insight to add or any questions, please don't hesitate to leave a comment. Next time, we will be attending the Stardew Valley Fair Fall Festival and have our second harvest of 960 pumpkins. Shortly after, Fall Day 21 will come, and we will be able to complete the community center and start new quests such as the Wizard questline, the Missing Bundle, and unlocking Ginger Island. At the same time, we'll be continuing making as much money as we can and making progress towards the perfection goals. If you are looking forward to all of this, please consider subscribing, and as always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.